Hey there, and welcome to the last recap episode of Arrowhead Junction. I'm here today with Flux. Flux, say hi.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's going pretty good. How about yourself?
Not too bad, actually. We have a whole bunch of things that we're going to be talking about on this video. We're going to be sort of reviewing many of the things that we built, and we also have a comprehensive list of questions from the viewers that they've been sending us on Twitter and Facebook. So, yeah, you ready for that?
I am. Yeah, we got a lot of questions from you guys, so thank you so much for that.
So one of the most recurring questions was about the situation with fresh popcorn. We are going to talk about that in just a few minutes, but first we're going to go over some of the other questions that we've gotten.
Perfect.
So to start things off, Flux, why don't you read the first question?
So Jacob814 on Twitter asks, where did the oil field project go that was mentioned at the beginning of the series? Now, I think that was actually Fresh Popcorn's project originally, and we did finish that. That was on the very far south.
It's right by,
Southwest?
by Lone. Yeah, it's on the corner of the map, actually. I don't know. I think he showcased it in the last episode he recorded around that area. But I think in general, we mostly focused on the oil refinery side of things, especially
definitely.
you. Didn't we have like two of those, actually? One in Zamora and one in Arrowhead Village?
Yeah, the kind of a trial one in Zamora and then the much larger one.
The trail one?
Yeah, it was much smaller. It was kind of a, I just wanted to see what we could do with those assets, and
it did look amazing, though. I mean, the level of detail I remember specifically when that video came out, like I was just blown away by the detail that you put together, because until that point, you only worked on the map, like actual terraforming.
No, that's true.
I've already worked on like the rest area, and Fresh has, he worked in Lone. I remember. Yeah, exactly. But that was pretty good. So we do have some of the oil wells in place, and
definitely.
So the next question comes from Dominic Wood, and he's asking us if we will collaborate again, because AJ was great. AJ, Arrowhead Junction, I'm guessing he's talking about.
Yeah, I think we definitely will. For those of you who don't know, actually, Tricktoaster and I have been collaborating for a pretty long time now, right? I mean, I think the first time was SimCity 2013, like on release night or something. That was the first time we made videos together, I think, right?
I don't remember how that. I think you mentioned that one, and I don't, and I trust you, but I
don't
remember that one specifically. I remember the one after that was the Urban Design Lodge. That was also SimCity 2013. Right. But to answer your question, Dominic, we will for sure collaborate again.
Definitely.
We're already talking about things to do. They may not happen right away after Arrowhead Junction is finished, because our schedules are kind of messy. And in fact, I think you, Flux, and myself are trying to try an experiment with a few different things.
Yeah, definitely.
But we will definitely try, do a similar project to this, whether it's SimCity, probably not SimCity, but
probably not.
City Skylines or Planet Coaster even, who knows?
Planet Coaster, that would be cool. Yeah, something like that. All right, so our next question comes from Nicholas Ghost Emoji, and he asks, I really loved AJ. Have you both ever thought about doing a podcast or similar about City Skylines and or other games? That's an interesting question. I haven't really... I have thought about doing a podcast in the past. Nothing really specific in mind, though, but I thought it'd be kind of a fun thing to do. What about you, Tricktoaster?
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. I really haven't thought about it. Lately, I've been thinking about doing vlogs, but mostly as a way of informing. Yeah, just informing future plans that I have to the wider community, because not everyone follows us on Twitter and Facebook, even though they totally should. Links in the description. Thank you.
Don't follow my Facebook, but follow my Twitter.
Yeah,
I don't use my Facebook.
But other than that, I haven't really thought about doing podcast episodes of games. But it could be interesting, to explore.
It'd be fun. This is kind of like a podcast, almost. Anyway.
Yeah.
This little,
for sure. This is more of a podcast for Arrowhead, but not necessarily for City Skylines. But that could be interesting for sure.
Maybe even just like live streams, on Twitch, just kind of hanging out. That's almost like a podcast at that point. We're just kind of hanging around. It's usually what it turns into, and we're just one of us is playing the game, and everyone else is just kind of talking about stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah, that would be worth considering. Next up, Jesse Nichman. And by the way, sorry, quick parenthesis here. If we're butchering your names, we do apologize in advance. We really don't know how to pronounce some of them, but we'll do our best. Sure. He's asking if we are going to detail the mountains a bit more, because, he in particular feels that it was a bit of a missed opportunity. What do you think about that? Because you were the one working on the mountains heavily.
Yeah, so I touched on this just a little bit in my own last episode. Really what it comes down to is this project is really large scale. There's a really big map to work with, and we kind of have to pick and choose the things we want to actually spend a lot of time detailing. And I think that the outer parts of the mountains weren't really as important to us as things like Arrowhead Village or Zamora or all of our little builds we built towards the interior part of the map. So that's kind of why we didn't really give much attention to the mountains outside of the first episode.
So the next question comes from Matt Lawson, and he asks, since you both enjoy micro detailing, I actually do enjoy that, did you find it difficult working on such a large, expansive map?
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of what I was talking about in the last question. But yeah, it's one of those things where it just takes so much time to work on these like individual parts of the map. And I think Strict Toaster, we spend like hours on like a block or something, making like the apartments or whatever.
I mean, I remember this is something that I've been recently thinking a lot about. Remember when you were, for example, when you were started Rhinestone or when I was working on Cedar Valley, we weren't focusing so much on detail, and in a big part because there weren't that many mods that allow you to like move things and like, move it in particular, or, more beautification, all those kinds of mods were simply not around. So our tools were significantly lacking, meaning that you just play the game in a different way, and obviously you couldn't go super detail. Whereas here, and I can see the trend, almost not the trend, but like the progression from the very first episodes of Arrowhead in general, and how like the very last episodes, I remember the amount of progress that I was able to make before is like insanely large compared to the amount of progress that I do now. But I don't know. I feel like the quality of each one of our latest builds is significantly higher than the ones that we started with.
Definitely, yeah. And it's not even that. It's also, we talk about this a lot, I think, even off camera. But it also just like the time it takes to record episodes definitely jumped quite a bit. There were times where we'd record like a few episodes in a row. And that was like SimCity days even. But But now, that's certainly not something that we could do.
Impossible. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Our next question comes from Will Dennis on Twitter, and he asks, what advice do you have for people looking to start a quality CS YouTube series? That's a pretty good question. Do you want to start with this one, Trick Toaster?
Sure, yeah. So, well, first of all, I will give you the advice that every other YouTuber gives you. Do it for the right things. Don't do it to like gain views and subscribers, because that is indeed a good motivation, but it will wear off rather quickly. And you're going to lose interest. You make sure you're doing it because you actually enjoy doing City Skylines videos or whatever kinds of videos that you're planning on doing. Monetization, all that comes later, and it's amazing and it's huge ego boosts, but you won't last long, and you won't be able to develop a community or an audience if you don't stick to it for a long time without, that extra motivation, I guess. So that's on the YouTube side of things. On the quality City Skylines side of things, well, it definitely helps if you have a okay computer that can actually run the game with decent quality settings. I know many people wouldn't watch videos that are like all pixelated and stuff like that. I don't necessarily say that you should record 4K or things like that. And if like Flux, you don't
I let me do that.
Go
1080.
Yeah, you don't go that higher, but definitely set up, have a powerful enough setup that can run the game at a decent frame rate. Right now, I mean, most of our time lapses and cinematics are all fake, quote unquote fake, since we do get like 6 FPS in like the downtown of Arrowhead Village. So we use mods like Cinematic Camera Extended that allows you to like offset the frame rate so that you can record a longer length of a clip, and then you just speed it up in post-production. We use Premiere for that.
Right.
And that way it looks super smooth, but it's totally not smooth.
Definitely not. Yeah. I'd say even just to add to that, one more thing, and it's a little more of like a general YouTube suggestion than anything else, but I think like Strict said, you want to do something that you're really enjoying and that you really like. And I think more important than that even, I would just say, especially when you're starting out, just really kick yourself to make things that you're really proud of. Like don't just like make a video and then as you get into the editing process, just kind of just rush it and put it out just to get it out or whatever. Like, spend some time on it and make something that you really like, that you think is really cool and really interesting, and something that you would watch on YouTube. And I think once you've gotten to that point where you can really like, critically look at your own stuff and say, oh yeah, this is something that I would actually like to watch on YouTube, I think then you're going in the right direction, and then you're going to get people to watch your videos.
And on top of that, it really helps if it's something like unique.
Oh yeah,
that hasn't
definitely
been seen before.
Absolutely.
Not that everything we do is like, the most revolutionary thing ever, but we try to do things that are not seen.
Yeah,
yet.
That was the whole point of this project. Actually,
yeah,
this is totally not something that's been done before. So, yeah.
So next question, Paul Grau. He says, what are the things that you think are still missing from Arrowhead Junction, and would you have built them if you had the time or motivation? I'm going to start answering this one if you don't mind, Flux. So things missing? Oh, so many. Well, for starters, a military base would be great to have in Arrowhead Junction. For those of you who don't know, this is like an side joke that now I think it's mostly public at this point, because that's like the most recurrent comment we've been having forever since we started Arrowhead Junction.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's 2 reasons why we haven't done that, and it's not lack of motivation and time. It's because well, first of all, we think it's a little bit cliche, but that is really not the biggest issue. The biggest issue is that the assets are not there. There's like all the military assets that are in the workshop are kind of poopy.
Yeah.
And we obviously, even though there's a lot of asset creators that helped us with specific, buildings and vehicles and things like that, we cannot ask someone to create a whole military set from scratch. Do you want to answer the second part of that question?
The bigger thing with this was that we didn't really want the project to go on for more than like 20 to 25 episodes. We were sort of shooting for that from the beginning, and with that in mind, right, it was more about just picking again the things that we wanted to focus on and not really spending too much time on anything else. Now, beyond that, obviously there's some cool things we could have done, like the military base, as Strickcaster said,
or a solar power plant.
So that would have been cool.
Popular.
That would have been cool. Yeah.
But we also have so many like oil stuff. I think that's one of the main reasons why we haven't done that one.
Honestly, I think for me, the thing that I would have personally liked to do more is I like the idea of having those like little, spurts of towns. We tried to do that a little bit towards the end. Strickcaster made that in his last episode as well. But just little bits of town here and there, kind of spread out, maybe even like up in the mountains a little bit or on the edge of the foothills and stuff like that. That would have been my addition, but just doing those little bits even takes quite a bit of time to detail each one. So I don't know if I would have done that in the end, but if I could do anything else, that'd probably be what I would have gone for there.
Now, moving on to the next question, Michael Smith is asking, what was the biggest challenge we faced during the collaborative project, and how did you overcome it?
All right, I think I can answer this a little bit, and then if you don't mind, I'll start off anyway.
Please.
All right. So I think that a lot of you might expect us to say the fresh popcorn situation, and I think that even beyond that, just the fact that it's a collaborative project and the fact that we have to all kind of work around similar schedules, I'd say that by far the hardest thing to do with a project like this is that you don't necessarily get to make your own hours on when you record certain things as much as you could on your own projects. So for me, that would be maybe something would come up with like school, because I'm taking classes right now, and then the same week I need to get Arrowhead up, because if I don't, then maybe Strict Toaster or Fresh can't record their episode. So now all of a sudden there's a bit more of a crunch time kind of situation going on. So for me, it was definitely managing the schedule, I think. But
for me, same thing. Scheduling was the biggest issue. I mean, me being gone for 2 months right at the beginning of this year really didn't help things. Right up until that point, we're actually doing great, because we were like 1 or 2 weeks ahead. In fact, I think we were like almost 3 weeks ahead.
We were on top of it.
Yeah. But other than that, the second biggest challenge was syncing all of the different game settings.
Yeah.
Because, so for those, and this is also a question that wasn't specifically sent for this Q&A, but we did get this question quite a bit, is how do we sync all these files? How do we pass each other, the save game? But basically what we have is a Google Drive shared folder where we dump all of the save games as soon as someone finished recording their episode, and we have a single collection where we all added the different assets and mods to it. And so every time it's our turn, we unsubscribe from our regular series collection. We subscribe to Arrowhead Junction. And on top of that, we also lately, and this is something that actually happened in the middle of the series, we had to start keeping track of settings files in the games folder. So for example, like the building themes for Samora that defines, all the houses that we specifically want to grow there. And then at the end, we started switching things into Rico. So now we needed to like sync all the Rico files as well and make sure we're all using the same road textures and all that. So we almost have like a checklist of things that we need to go through. The LUT as well.
Oh yeah.
So that was I guess the second biggest issue with the series. Other than that, I think it was like pretty smooth in general in terms of production.
Honestly, I was really happy with the fact that we got all the way through the series. I mean, it's definitely not easy to do a collaboration project. So I think that given all the things that could have gone wrong, I think it went pretty well. And I want to tack on one thing to what you just said about the collections as well. I really strongly urge anybody who's playing this game and using lots of mods and assets, regardless if you do this on YouTube or not, if you just do it for fun. I think having a collection for every new project is such a good idea on the Steam Workshop. It makes it so much easier to troubleshoot stuff. If you need to clean up, wipe your whole game off your hard drive or whatever, you can always just come back, reinstall the game, and you got the whole collection of all your stuff right there. And if you want to start like a new project, you could do that and have different assets installed. And then it's just a matter of clicking unsubscribe from all and then go to your other project, click subscribe to all, and you're good to go. So I think that's a really good way of doing it.
One quick tip, let me give you. You don't have to do that all at once, actually. As soon as you find like some like fun asset that you want to add, there's a little button right below like the screenshots that says add to collection, and you can just check a box where belonging to the collection that you want to add to. So you don't have to like go like subscribe to a whole bunch of things and then create the collection and then manually have to like click on every one of the elements that you're subscribed to. You just simply do it as you find cool stuff to add to your city.
Exactly.
Which makes it much easier, trust me.
All right, so moving on to our next question. That comes from Commando Santa on Twitter. He asks, where is the best place to start build-wise for a project like Arrowhead Junction? A small town or a power plant? I think that personally, and this is kind of like a personal preference thing, honestly. I mean, it really depends on what kind of game you're playing too. Like if you're doing a limited funds, sort of thing where you're actually using in-game money and all that stuff, not using the unlimited money mod, then I'd say you definitely need to start with like a small town and build it up from there. But if you're doing what we do, which is usually unlimited money, then I think personally I like to start with utilities. So some sort of power plant or maybe like a waste management facility or even like a water treatment plant, something like that. Now that's my own personal preference anyway.
So the next question comes from Levent Bayrakli. Hope I'm not butchering your name. And he's asking specifically to Flux, actually, but I think he's actually asking both of us. If Colossal Order were to release a new version of City Skylines, what would you like it to be different from the current game?
So first, what I just want to like preface all of this with, I think that making city builders right now is kind of like really interesting because I think the hardware that's required to run these sorts of simulation games just like didn't even really exist, like maybe, I don't know, half a decade ago or even sooner maybe, at least on the large scale with agents and all that stuff. I mean, really, SimCity 2013 was the first one to really take that on in the first place. But I also think that in another 5 to 10 years, we're going to have much better hardware and the ability to make massive cities with tons of agents and all this stuff and not have near as much of a problem running the cities and all that stuff. But that said, I think that Colossal Order did a great job with this game, and I think that pretty much everything that they've done, I'm pretty on board with. I mean, obviously, things like graphics and preference on the style and stuff is not really that important because you can change it so easily. Like we've made these custom map themes and we get custom assets and custom road textures. I mean, you can really change pretty much everything about the style of the game. So even that's not that important. I mean, honestly, I think my biggest gripe is the UI. The GUI is just, I don't know. I'm not really a fan. This is the main menu, the GUI.
I would agree with that too. To me, what I would like to see different or to be more effort put into. But by the way, I 100% agree with what you just said, Flux. Mm-hmm. But since I think the long tail of this game is in particular, more people like us that are focused on like pushing the limits of the game, getting a lot of mods in,
Right.
Improving the quality beyond what was developed by the developers themselves. I know they have to make money, and that's why they come up with all these DLCs that we're really not interested in,
Right.
except on a few occasions where we are. But for the most part, I would be happy to see more effort put into tools that allow you to better manage all these custom content.
Right,
I think
definitely.
the whole Steam Workshop integration feels like a bit of an afterthought,
Yeah.
or not really, because maybe they weren't thinking that mods will be so popular and would require so many like different settings files that you really can't sync over your projects. And I feel like a game like this maybe doesn't have to be multiplayer. Maybe as long as it's
Definitely
like collaborative
not, yeah.
enough, it's good enough for it. So that's what I would like to see in the future personally.
Yeah, honestly, even you just saying that makes me think like, man, how amazing would it be if the Steam Workshop already provides some sort of management of these things, but what if there's like a second kind of filter from the game side where it's like you can click like start new project, and then you can add assets to that project, and it only loads whenever you load that project. You don't have to like try and manage it outside of the game in Steam. If it was all integrated into the game, that would be pretty awesome. And then even more so if there's some support for the modders where it's like, hey, instead of having to make all these local files that keep all these settings that get all messed up whenever you do collaborations.
Yeah, just bake them into the save.
Yeah, exactly. Bake it
that.
into the save, or bake it into the project file, even if that's like a thing. That would be pretty awesome. But again, I think like you said, I mean, there's no way they could have known that this game was going to get the pop. It wasn't supposed to be this popular. And there's so many people like this game, and so many people are making mods for this game now that I think they never really anticipated whenever they're building the game. So it kind of makes sense that it would be almost looking as if it was some sort of afterthought or something.
Well, if anything, that's a good problem to have.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So the next question comes from Procrastinating Puma, and he's asking, would you try making a national park map just for fun? And I know you have some strong opinions about this. I'm going to let you answer this one.
All right, yeah. Strong may be a bit strong, but no, I think just with how much nature work I've been doing in Rhinestone Island lately, especially, I really don't think that I could possibly do a national park map. It's just like, it's a lot of work to do all the nature stuff, and I think that some of the most interesting parts of this game is like infrastructure design and making cool highways and making cool roads and systems and all that stuff. So while I think it's a lot of fun to do like the natural aspect of this game and work on the environment kind of around different builds and stuff, I definitely couldn't make an entire national park map. Our next question comes from Bawamba on Twitter, and he asks, what is your special trick to get inspiration to kick in when you're not feeling it?
Yeah, so I actually answered this question a few times during live streams, if I recall correctly. I do work in design in real life. That's what I do for a living. And sometimes I actually have like 2 good weeks and 2 bad weeks in general. And when you have bad weeks, specifically now related to City Skylines, I try to look for inspiration in many places. The first place I usually go to is Google Maps. And, a technique that I use quite often is to go find something in Google Maps that I think will be cool, that I have the assets for. That's actually kind of important. Mm-hmm. And then try to copy it. And what usually happens is after a couple of, maybe 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, maybe an hour, like as I'm trying to copy this thing into the game, like I start putting my own spin on things, and that's where my creativity kind of flows a little bit. So I try that multiple times, and it works for me. Maybe you want to try that, but sometimes when even that doesn't help, I think one thing I do is just do maintenance. To be honest, like, we need bus routes. Okay, cool, I'll do that because I can't think of anything creative to do. But I don't know what are your techniques, Flux?
I would say my number one motivator is coffee. I have to start with coffee.
Wow.
Like, yeah, I'm not even joking. Like, sometimes I'll just be sitting there and I'm feeling kind of like tired, and I catch myself in this like lazy train of thought where I'm like, that might be kind of cool. I'm like, but then I'd have to like do this, and I'd have to like draw out these roads this way, and all the detailing that would come involved, and then I catch myself and I'm like, wait a minute, like that's a dumb reason not to do something. Like, obviously it's gonna take work to do it, but you drink some coffee and then you feel great. So That's what I do. I drink some
what
coffee.
What kind of coffee?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Espresso or like filtered coffee?
Nah, I just like some black. Yeah, it's filtered coffee.
Nice.
Straight out the pot. Yeah, that's good. And also, I do also look at Google Maps. I do the same thing you do.
Coffee and Google Maps.
Coffee, Google Maps, and little PSA for you guys out there. Definitely go check out Google Earth right now, or Google Maps actually, and then go to the satellite view, and then hold that control button down whenever you're the control key, whenever you're nice and low to the ground, and you can just like pan around inside the city as if you're like playing City Skylines. Oh yeah, you're right. Not everywhere, but in like big cities especially. But
yeah.
It actually feels like you're playing a video game. Like you can actually pan around 3D objects. It's pretty awesome. It's a really good way to get some inspiration, I think. And then also beyond that, I would also say watching people on YouTube or videos of City Skylines kind of helps a little bit, at least for me, more than anything. Not really to get specific inspiration about like a future project or something, but more just seeing somebody doing the actual work of detailing, like watching a time lapse just kind of gets me going. It's like, I kind of want to do that. I kind of want to start putting some stuff down.
If you don't mind, let me add a quick remark. So one thing that I noticed that's super helpful by watching other YouTubers in particular is that how they use tools. And this happened to me, like for example, watching your videos, I realized that instead of creating an asset that has a cluster of bushes, I can literally use Move It. And I use that technique ever since. So for those specific things too, I think it's really, really cool to watch other YouTubers as well.
Yeah, that's funny you even say that, because I did, that was something that I kind of started doing, but I actually started doing that whenever I was watching your videos and I was seeing how much you're using Move It to just like duplicate and save yourself effort, because I always find myself like I'll be sitting there like doing the same thing like 8 times in a row, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I could have just used Move It. Like, what am I doing? I'm wasting time.
I gotta be honest, I do bug you a lot about getting mods. I know you're like very anti-mod person.
Yeah.
But with good reason. I mean, you almost destroyed Fluxburg, right? With mods or something.
Yeah, almost lost it. Yeah, it was Traffic Plus Plus, I think, back in the day. It was before Traffic Plus Plus was a little more stable and a little bit less willing to destroy your whole city. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the next question comes from John Taylor Crawford, and he asks us, "What's our favorite area of Arrowhead?"
That's a good question.
What is your favorite area of Arrowhead?
That's a good question, because I don't know if it. I feel like I have some favorite areas that we've done that are actual civilized locations, but I also have a couple areas that I made when I created the map that I'm just like a really big fan of. The number one for me was I think there's some like beginning cinematics of it, but it was like the very beginning of one of the larger rivers on like the far corner of the map. I'll actually point it out to Strictoast whenever he's editing this video, so he knows what I'm talking about. But it's just like I got a lot of cinematic shots of it at the beginning, but I always liked the way the river kind of faded out at the end. It got a little smaller, so I'm a big fan of that. But that would be like my natural aspect that I was a fan of. But if I had to go for something that we built in this map, I think that honestly, like the downtown Arrowhead Village area turned out really nicely. I like all of the all the little like interwoven neighborhoods, and we've got like some construction going on, and we've got the different the little office district and the waste. Is that the waste management facility that you built there? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would agree with that too. I was going to say the same thing. The downtown of Arrowhead Village, I think it came out absolutely fantastic. Not only that, like the different grids at different angles and how they all like smoothly like kind of come together. It's awesome. I was also a huge fan of the little passenger rail here that First did a while back. That was like a really nice addition. But overall, everything looks great. That, by the way, just a quick remark here, that train station that Tim the Terrible actually made specifically for us, it's based on the Santa Barbara station in Southern California. It's just like sort of the centerpiece of Arrowhead Village. It just came out absolutely
it's amazing.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's great.
So yeah, I'm really excited about that area. I do love that little like town center that you did on the outskirts of Sonora too, where the DMV is. DMV. Like that little thing looks pretty awesome to me. And I try to sort of replicate that in my last episode when I did like the gas station in the middle of the, right up along the National Road.
Yeah, I liked that. Yeah, sweet. All right. Well, our next question comes from Raleigh, And he asks, when is something considered done? He says, do both of you agree or have different opinions on that matter? That's a good question. Actually, I've gotten that one a lot outside of Arrowhead Junction, just like on its own. And it's kind of hard to know when something's done. I don't know if there's like a real cut and dry like way to respond to that, because I think a lot of the time even you can just continue adding details forever and adding little things here and there. I think for me anyway, and I'll let you answer this in a minute as well if you want to add in, but I think what I like to do is I try to match the level of detail that I'm adding in surrounding areas as much as possible. I don't want to have one area feel like it's got a lot more detail than somewhere else. So I'll sort of like set a standard when I'm making something, like, all right, I want to have some planters here, and I want to have like a good number of bushes, some variety. I want to have some props here and there, and I want to have some decals. And then that's kind of a standard for what I want everywhere else, and then I'll sort of follow that going elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily have, a thought when I'm like done. It just feels right when it's when I think it's done, and it could be a combination of things. It's not like we have like a checklist of okay, it has to have X amount of bushes, X amount of trees, X amount of buildings. It's sometimes you look at the build from different angles, and this is I'm sure you do this too. Just look at the thing from like all the different angles, like from street level, from above, and then try to like balance all these like puzzle pieces, and then you might have a spot that is like loosely covered by assets, and you might want to add a few, and then you might have another place where you added a lot and you need to remove things. So I think considering things done is trying to find the balance where it just feels right for the most part. That's what
definitely. Yeah, I think I'm on board with that one as well.
So the next question comes from Milky, and he's asking us if we were to restart Arrowhead Junction from scratch, what would we do differently? What would you do differently?
Oh, man. Well, I know we've mentioned this a few times, but the number one thing is just the fact that there's new assets and mods coming out all the time. So maybe we'd be able to incorporate some of these newer assets and mods, especially the assets. All these new decals that have come out lately especially been really good. So those would have been awesome to have at the beginning.
I don't think we had decals when we started, did we? Like big decals.
Oh, no, we didn't. Those got added.
I don't think that was a thing.
Yeah, I think that we didn't have. The first ones were like the tire marks and the worn concrete and the puddles, right? And I don't think we're looking right now at the Zamora, like the rest area put together, and there was a significant lack of decals in this area. Those were added like midway through, and that's really saying something. But there was a lot of other things too that weren't even here at all. So that would be one of the big things. Would be obviously adding different custom assets and stuff. But from there, I'm pretty happy with the direction we took. I think that it was a fun little project to get to see. How it would be to work with other people and try to incorporate ideas that we're all having that are different whatever, and making it all work together. So yeah.
The only thing that I would add to that statement, which I absolutely agree with, is that knowing all the things that we know now and how some of the builds came out, we would probably tackle them again, but in a different way that's actually much better. Like something that I'm sure you would agree with me, Flux, but something that happens quite often to us is when we like lose the recording for some reason or the save game, we have to like redo the same thing twice, and the second time you build it actually comes out way nicer than the first time.
Definitely. So
if we were to redo everything, many of the things would probably remain the same, but they would look way better. I can promise you that.
And I think I just thought of something now that you're bringing that up. The thing that I would have absolutely done a lot more of is use the Move It tool like way more often to reuse things you've already done, because there's probably, I can't think of how many times I've made the same planter, like probably like 100 times. I've made the same thing so many times, and even just simple stuff like a nicely detailed restaurant or something, or like the coffee shop or whatever. You can I did it in my last episode. I copied the police station, and I spent a bunch of time on it and made it look pretty good, and then I just copied it and I got to use it somewhere else and save myself all that time. So yeah, that's totally something that you should try doing, and I know you do it all the time. The audience, but even myself, I always forget about it. It's really a good way to save some time.
Forget all the time about that.
Yeah. Our next question comes from Ryan Sorensen, and he has 3 questions. His first question is this the end of Arrowhead? I think I can answer that right now. Yes, this is the end of Arrowhead. The second question is, can the public play the city when you're done? And the answer is that, well, the simple answer is yes. The kind of longer answer is yes, but it's going to be kind of hard to play it. I just fair warning, it's going to be a mess to download all this stuff. There's going to be some additional files you might need, some settings and stuff.
So just to answer that question very quickly, there's going to be some information in the description of this video, and basically the saving will be up in the Steam Workshop, but there will be some files that you will have to download separately. And what I was talking before about all those settings for Rico and all that stuff, you're going to need those as well. So it's going to be quite a process, but it's all going to be like perfectly explained in the description of the video and in the Steam Workshop.
And we do this.
And you're going to need.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, yeah, you need like at least 24 gigs of RAM or something like that to run this many assets.
Yeah, you'll need a lot of RAM and you'll need a little bit of patience. But I just wanted to say that it's obviously totally possible to do this. Like, when we do this every single week, so it's not like impossible to make this work. But just go and follow the instructions that Shirtoaster makes on his website, and it should be good. And the final question is, Flux, can we play the Rhinestone Island City in the future? And the answer is yes. Again, you can definitely play Rhinestone Island when I'm done with it. I'm almost finished with the cinematics and whatnot, but once the entire city is totally done, and I am still working on it like live on YouTube and stuff occasionally and all that stuff, but once it's totally done, then I will release a save game. And again, kind of like Arrowhead, it'll be a little bit more difficult to get it to work. Some not quite like to the degree of Arrowhead, but don't have any like custom settings you need to download or anything, but you will need a couple of different assets and mods and all that stuff, but we'll get around to that later. Not a big deal.
And finally, we move on to the last question. And Espen Sandholt Adamson asked us on Facebook to please comment about what happened with Fresh. It seems weird that you're just moving on as if nothing happened. Not to bash, but what needed to be said about that was already being said. However, he wants to know how we felt and experienced it.
So we've gotten this question quite a bit on Twitter and YouTube especially, and we've been avoiding it kind of beyond when we addressed it the first time for a couple of different reasons. So let me sort of break that down. But the first thing I want to talk about is the first part of your question here, where you're saying that it seems a bit weird that we're just moving on as if nothing happened. So the truth behind that is that we've been thinking about this quite a bit, and it's been on our minds. We've been talking about it between each other, but not mentioning it obviously in public, and the reason behind that is that we don't really have anything to talk about. Like, we literally haven't talked to him since we were making the last episode. In fact, I think it was you, Strick, that was talking to him last, right?
Yeah, the last thing I talked to him on Skype was we were having a discussion of what he should build for the episode that he wasn't able to record, the last episode that he wasn't able to record. And we're like literally discussing like the amount of detail that build was going to have. After that, it was 100% radio silence. We tried calling him, texting him, like every single, means of communication that we had. We tried everything without a response. So, yeah.
So for that reason, without having much information about the situation, we just decided to keep working on the project and doing our own thing. And of course, being open to hopefully him coming back. And I think I messaged him like 2 or 3 weeks after the situation had gone down and tried to get in contact again. We were obviously really open to talking to him again, but we never got anything from him. And I think that sort of leads into the second part of your question, where you asked how we felt about the whole situation, because we didn't really talk about this too much, and I didn't really want to say anything about it, just for professionalism's sake, and just to kind of let it all blow over a little bit, I guess. But I think that the thing that I was most bummed about was just the fact that he didn't communicate with us at all about it. I can understand, and I think Strick can too, from a YouTuber's perspective. It's definitely a lot of work, and it can be kind of stressful at times, and even overwhelming with comments and stuff. Trying to make videos on the internet, it's sometimes hard to take in negative feedback or whatever. Any number of reasons could lead someone to not want to make YouTube videos anymore, and that's totally fine. That's a totally reasonable thing to feel. But beyond that, I do think that when you make a commitment to something like this, it just seems a little bit rude, a little bit unprofessional to not communicate with the people you're working with. And that's where I was a little more disappointed with the way this all panned out. And even on like a personal level, like he was someone that I was talking to for a while, someone that I knew, and I was kind of bummed out to just not hear from him after that. So that was kind of my take anyway.
Yeah, on my end, I mean, Fresh was probably the only person that I actually met in real life from the YouTube community. And to see that after, weeks of zero communication, he suddenly started streaming and posting videos, that to me, felt really odd. And it was kind of a disappointment too.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
I was really hoping that he would at least send us a message saying, "Hey guys, I can't do this anymore. I'm moving on," and that would have been fine. I totally like Flux said, we totally understand that. But then suddenly his videos are gone too. So I don't know. That I'm sure he had his reasons to do that, and we don't really hold grudge against him. Arrowhead still exists as a project on our channels. You can still watch it. We're doing our best to also showcase many of the things that he built, because he was actually super talented, and that's why we picked him for this project as well. But I mean, it just ended on a not super nice note, I guess.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
I'm trying to say.
Right, but like he was saying, you can still watch all the videos, and it still makes sense. You don't necessarily need to have the videos that are removed from his channel. So hopefully, if you're watching this in the future, you didn't feel like you missed out too much on all that stuff. We tried again to cover all the stuff that he had built in the past in cinematics and stuff, so you can still see the entirety of Arrowhead Junction, even though his videos are now gone. So hopefully that's not too bad.
And having said that, we do want to take some time to acknowledge some awesome people who helped us during the creation of the series. First of all, we want to thank Biesquickelhausen, also known as Jay, which is way easier to pronounce. He was a huge help during the creation of Arrowhead, not only giving us ideas on Skype, and we did a lot of screen sharing during the production of this series with him. Yeah, especially with Fresh. They were really close.
They were,
but he also made a ton of custom train assets for us. He did all of those custom boneyards assets for the airport, and his help was huge during this production. So make sure to check out his channel. He's actually starting a new City Skylines series, so I'm going to include the link in the description of this video. And likewise, I also want to give a huge shout out to Tim the Terrible. He made one, and I mentioned this during this episode before, but he made this amazing train station asset based off the Santa Barbara station. You should totally go subscribe to this asset. He was really proud of it, and I try to showcase it every time I can, because it's one of my favorite, buildings of this whole project. So a huge thank you to you too. Again, I'm going to include the link in the description to his Steam workshop as well. He also has amazing train assets too that you should totally check. He also did the Canary Replacer mod. That was also huge. Otherwise, Arrowhead will look like crap with all those overhead cables without his help. And finally, I want to give a quick shout out to Beard Monkey, who also created they were not 100% custom for Arrowhead, but I know they were heavily inspired by Arrowhead, and I think they were requested by Fresh Popcorn as well. The scrapyard assets, the cars, the sign that he put together, that whole pack is really amazing, and it totally sort of makes Arrowhead look the way it does, thanks to that. So I want to give you a quick thanks as well, and I'm going to include the link in the description to his workshop profile as well, so you can check out all the amazing decals that he has, and as well as other assets. And and in general, just a huge thanks to all of the other asset creators that we've been, and mod creators in particular, that we've been using their assets in the creation of this project. Otherwise, it would not look the way it does. So we just hope that the community keeps growing as much as it does, and hopefully we can do it justice by creating cool cities and projects.
For sure.
So any last words? Any last thoughts?
I guess the only thing I really wanted to say again was that I'm really happy that we actually finished this entire collaboration. I think it's not super easy to do something like this where, we're all working, we have to work with our schedules and make it happen, and it's kind of an ambitious project to begin with, but I'm really happy that we actually finished the whole thing, and I hope we get to do it again sometime.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know I mentioned this already a million times in my previous episode and even during this one, but I just can't believe that we managed to pull this off, given, the ambitious, crazy scope that we set to do, and with all the problems that we had in the middle, we still managed to take it to a good spot. And obviously we could work on this forever, add a million different things, million different details, buildings, whatever, but if you want to give it a shot, the save-im is now up in the Steam workshop. You can get it from the link in the description, like I said before. And just get all those couple thousand assets that we have, and just give it a shot. If you want to like post screenshots and even make videos of this, you're more than welcome to. If you make videos, just make sure to link back to us.
That'd be great
if you can. But other than that, just go crazy with it. We're definitely eager to share your version of Arrowhead Junction with everyone else in the community.
Absolutely, and even post it on the subreddit so we can go see him there as well, because we usually follow that around. So if you go ahead and if you build up on the city, definitely go ahead and post him there, and we can all see him.
But that being said, we want to thank you all for watching. Please go hit that like button. Just go crazy with the like button. Make sure to subscribe to Flux channel as well as mine. The links will be in the description as well. And we really hope to see you in the next project.
See ya.
As a designer, I have that problem where you just don't have it. There's times where you have
You're starting good. I liked it.
Oh shit! Let me start it again. More peaceful and better frame rate. What the is this? What is this?
What?
Okay, I might have to re-upload the file.
Why are there like 3 of them?
I had a lot of issues.
You had a lot of issues, eh?
I had so many issues. Oh man, I'm gonna include this in the outtakes because I cloned the stupid thing, and it almost like I had to like restart the game because I couldn't like select it and drag it, and I was getting like a weird hole in the ground. But I guess they ended up here, which is like, oh my god,
there's like 3 of them.
Yeah, there's like 3 of them. This doesn't make any sense.